Hello, this is a video that is meant to represent, to be a demonstration of the four-player game of At the Court of the Great King. It will be played by myself. It is not meant to be the explanation of the all rules, but it is meant to convey the general flow of the game. And throughout the game, I will be offering some commentary, but I will not be explaining everything, or I will not be making always the best moves. It is just really meant to show how game may look like. In four-player game, we need, of course, first start with the setup, and in the four-player game, all extra cards are being added to the basic deck. 40 cards. Give it a shuffle. Why not twice? And then deal 2 cards to each player. 2 cards. Now the crisis cards. There are 9 crisis cards in the game. In the 4-player game, we use 8 of them. So one is going to be removed, and 8 crisis cards is added. Shuffle, shuffle. Next step is setting up the courtiers, the court. In 4-player game, we use 10 courtiers at start. So 5 in a row, face down. Eight, 9, 10. When it comes to the influence markers, each player in this mode uses 4. The 5 tokens are used only in 2-player game. Here, players claim the courtiers by placing 2 masks in their respective color at random without knowing who gets what. The sequence isn't that important, but it's important to note that there is only one player that can control one courtier at any given time. Moving the yellow player. Moving the tokens to the corresponding sides of the table. Now we can flip the courtiers. And the next step is assigning the titles. Chief Minister goes to the courtier with the lowest rank, and right now, from what I see, Hermeias becomes a Chief Minister. Strategos goes to Zeuxis. And Treasurer, after 4, we have 6, we have 5. So the first player of the game will be red player, and later on the play goes clockwise around the table. The first player is indicated by the lowest, the most important title. If no player controls any title, it can happen in 2-player game. Then the rank of the courtier decides. The lowest becomes first. Okay. With this, we are ready to begin. So, red player receives 1 card. Is it a crisis? It's not a crisis. Red player chooses 1 card to play, and the easiest way would be just safeguard our vital interests and put 2 masks for 2 points from the card on the courtier with very important ability of removal enemies. Over to the yellow player, drawing a card. It's not a crisis. Yellow. We can still play it safe, relatively speaking, and place for 1 point 1 mask. It's ours, we just cannot use the special ability as long as we do not have 2 masks on a courtier. And just to make our life slightly easier, we will use 1 point from the card to remove 1 mask from the green courtier, just to make ability less available. Over to the green. Not a crisis either. Mm. So it's slowly time to begin. Use Euphorion special ability, giving him 1 point right away. And then I will play 1 point card to theoretically to play the event. The red resource would be increased, but it's capped right now at 2, so it stays where it is. But the green red skilled courtier of my choice receives a token. I will pick Antipater, so green faction receives 1 more point. Over to blue. Drawing a card. It's not a crisis, but a nice card to have. We will not use it right away. We will just use the ability of Hegesianax to draw another courtier before we do anything. And this courtier is particularly interesting. So I think that we'll claim him. Correcting the blue tokens, by the way. 2 points and it's done. Over to the red player again. Drawing a card. It's a crisis. It needs to be revealed immediately. 1 token is assigned. Drawing the replacement card because players have to have 3 cards in their hand to choose from when they ultimately begin the round. And we will see that the crisis revealed requires being a strategos. So right now only yellow player actually can attempt this resolution of this crisis. Being red. Well, why not? Playing this card for the event, so red resource goes down by 1, and the glory is assigned to the courtier with green skill. It doesn't have to be mine or controlled by the red player, but it can be any from among the revealed ones, but right now it makes sense to give it to yourself. Red faction gets 1 point more. And if anyone from the audience was watching the videos earlier, this video, for the sake of simplicity, will be played without the Royal Favor and Royal Ire optional rules. It just makes certainly the procedure and the final scoring slightly easier to handle. 10 points, 12. I guess Irene will use the special ability to increase the pool of glory. One of the endgame conditions or immediate conditions that immediately end the game is exhausting the glory pool. Right now we have 12 points, 12 tokens there, so it should be safe, but if Irene would be lost without using her special ability, this can be problematic. Okay, over to yellow. Drawing a card. It's a crisis, it needs to be revealed. Glory to all revealed crises, so the previously revealed receives one more. Yellow player draws the replacement. It's not a crisis. If it would be next crisis, this next crisis card would be discarded. Yellow. Mm. Two. Let's play Hannibal, but for points. We will not have him in this particular game. And we will do the claiming title because the value of the resource equals 2 and Ptolemy doesn't have any glory. I need to spend 2 points to transmit the title to a courtier that actually has any red skill. I have 1 point left, and to make it simple, I will just increase the loyalty of Zeuxis having full control. So over to green, drawing a card. Oops. It's not a crisis, thank goodness for this. Green. Yeah. So let's use 2 points from the card. Euphorion will try to control the epidemic, or will try to go for successful resolution of the crisis. Because I'm using 2 points from the card, I will be using 2 dice. The red skill, and I'm using red skill because the icon on the crisis card is also red. Red skill of Euphorion is 3, so it's 3 dice. Now I need to score as many successes as I can, and I do score those successes by rolling 5 or 6 on each and every single die. So I need at least 1, 5 or 6. If I get 3 like this is simply a different category. Every success or failure means change in the resource tracks. In this case, only red resource is dropped 1 box. The glory goes to Euphorion, and the green player retains crisis cards. This is a one possible tiebreaker by the end of the game, so it goes to green. The green faction grows in points by 1. Special abilities? Nope. Then it's over to blue. It's not a crisis. So what blue player can do? Well, well, well. Well, well, well. Hmm. How about making life difficult for everyone? So I'm playing Scandal at Court for the event. This means that I can bring green down 1 mask with antipater, so 1 point lost, as this not associated with green faction anymore. And just to make it relatively even, 1 mask less for Irene and 1 mask less for Ptolemy. Now, I still can use the special ability, and ability of Kephalon is adding glory to Kephalon, but also adding glory to the courtier that is not controlled by the blue player. It just so happens that Antipater is neutral, so we can assign this to the Antipater. No one gains yet except for the blue player, and I need to mark the special ability used. Okay, blue player done, over to red. It's not a crisis, and the red player hmm. Hmm. The easiest way right now for the red player would be to benefit from neutrality of Antipater, spending 2 points to place one mask on Antipater. One, because if courtier has the any glory, actions like claiming title or persuading, putting masks or decreasing masks, are more expensive. They usually cost 1, persuading, adding influence, but if there is any glory, it costs 2. So with 2 points, the red gets 2 victory points. Special ability? Is it time to assassinate? I don't think so. Not yet. So let's see what yellow player will draw. Not a crisis. Not a crisis. Yellow player has 1 marker left. So let's do this. Playing card for points, 3 points, to claim the title from Zeuxis, who is not a military man. I can transit it for 2 points. This is the value of the blue resource at the moment. And for the 3rd point, I can increase Zeuxis' influence and enact his ability. He receives 2 glory points because there is at least 1 crisis already resolved. So yellow player gets 2 points from the pool. And the game is started in earnest. Everyone has some points to lose. Special ability done, card played, so over to green. Not a crisis. Green. Green unfortunately doesn't. Green has only 1 courtier. This is never the best possibility. Mm. Mm, 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 mm. If this is the case, let's play 2 points. Now red resource is worth 1, so we can transit the title for 1. There are no glory points on many pools. 1 point remaining, and we'll simply neutralize the Heliodorus, who is not ready to assassinate anyone. At least not right now. Over to blue. Drawing a card, it's not a crisis. Looking at the blue position, and once again just thinking what can be done with the cards that I have. Multiple things, actually, but let's play this for the event Green resource cannot go up by 1 because it's still capped, but the glory can be assigned to the courtier with blue skill. In this case, it would be Lysias, so 1 point more for blue. And I think it's time to start stealing stuff because we are playing open-handed, sort of. We can see that red player has a card that can negate the hostile actions or abilities that harm. I cannot pretend that I do not realize this, so I think I will try to steal from the yellow player. Special ability, steal all another courtiers. So from yellow I take all the tokens, and suddenly blue player has 4 points, and yellow player seemingly has 0. Ay, ay, ay. Blue player done. Over to the red player, drawing a card. Is it a crisis? No, it's not a crisis. Uh, and once again, analysis paralysis. 2 points. The card is played for points. I bring back the Heliodorus to full abilities. And Heliodorus, I think it's time. It's time to cool the blue player. So I used 1 point for bringing him up to speed. Lysias is going to be eliminated. I act so quickly because I know that blue player doesn't have a card that can mitigate this. Token returns to the player, this returns here. Lysias is permanently removed from the game. Because we had him in the court, we need to draw the replacement, however. And it's not that bad leader. Red player has 1 point remaining. It just so happens that with red 1 point there isn't that much to be done. What can be done would be, let's say, decreasing one mask from one of the courtiers. This time it's yellow. Over to yellow then. This is a crisis. So once again the tokens are put on the revealed crisis cards. Roman Seleucid War grows ever so important. The yellow player has to have a replacement. This is not a crisis, and I think that this is a as good time as any to try and resolve those Roman Seleucid War, really. So let's try doing this like that. The 1 point from the card can be added as a mask to Ptolemy, and Ptolemy will try to resolve the Roman Seleucid War by himself. 2 points from the card, so 2 dice. His ability is equal to, so 2 dice. Now, what is interesting about this, the value of the resources also mean extra dice, but because the Ptolemy is the title holder still may decide to use the bonus by decreasing the value. the number of the dice do not change, but if it would be moved from 2 to 1, then the total number of the dice would be diminished. As it is, using this resource like this means that there is modifier of +1 to every single dice. So instead of hitting a success, achieving a success on 5 or 6, I will achieve a success on 4, 5, 6. And I need as many successes as possible, at least 2. Well, good thing that I have done this, because it's indeed 2 successes. This means that Romance Lucid War ends with manpower decreased, but economy is growing. There must have been losses, but more importantly, 3 points for Ptolemy and yellow player resolved successfully a crisis. Yellow player goes up to 3. Special ability, nothing to be added really, so I will just pass the play over to the green player. Not a crisis, and green player once again theoretically has only one courtier, but what he can do would be actually playing card for 2 points to claim Polyxenidas for himself. Another military leader. This may come handy. No special abilities to use, so over to blue. Blue player draws, it's not a crisis. Blue player is now in the lead, but it would be nice to cement the gains. And one way to do this could be by playing this card for the event. So blue resource goes up by 1, can be done, and the red skilled courtier of my choice receives 1 glory token. There is 1 here. Blue in the lead. Okay, no special abilities. Over to red. Red is drawing. It's not a crisis. But what red can do? Red can do some mischief. So I will use this card for 2 points to spend all 2 points on bringing the Antipater up to speed. Yes. And once again, as many times before, the video is unscripted. I realize that uh, the scoring board doesn't reflect the situation, the score situation. This is something that I'm guilty when I play by myself multiple sides. Yellow player once again has 3. Yes, this checks out. Blue player has only 2. Red player 3 and green 2. Okay, now the current score is correct. The reason to bring Antipater to full control to 2 masks is in his special ability, because we can trounce the yellow player, namely change the control by 2 masks, so neutralize Ptolemy, in other words, and yellow player is brought down to not, at least for the time being. Over to yellow player. This is a crisis, so glory is assigned to the crisis, and yellow player needs a replacement. that is not a crisis. It's probably time to bring this card back, or rather use it as the event. So player receives 2 operation points, but persuade and claim title action cost is not affected by the glory tokens on targeted courtiers. This means that, contrary to what I was saying earlier, I can spend 2 points on putting 1 and 2 masks, even though there is a glory on this courtier. Normally it would cost me 4 points, but here it's just 2, and I have mitigated the loss inflicted by the red player. No special ability, over to green. Ho ho ho. Mm. Looking at the, once again, yeah, I guess this would be the time. So we'll try mm, to do a little bit of some interesting things, showing the possible combinations that you can play with the cards that I currently have on my hand. I will be using the 2 points in order to try to resolve the crisis 5th Syrian War. It has to be a green skilled courtier. Euphorion has a 1, so 1 from the skill of Euphorion, 2 points from the mm, from the card, and this card that is used only in multiplayer, that is free. It can be seen in 3-player game, but it's certainly going to be seen in 4-player game. I'm using the stripe. When attempting to resolve a crisis, roll 3 more dice in your attempt. I'm just getting the additional help, so it's 6 dice in total, and because Euphorion is holding red title, he can decide to use 1 resource, and now I'm scoring on 4, 5, 6 on every dice. This is the 5th Syrian War, so there are chances. I see 4 successes with the resource being dropped, so it's actually the top line. This means that the blue resource goes up by 1, red resource, this is a good news, goes up by 1 as well, and the glory goes to Euphorion. 2 points for green. And the 5th Syrian War is resolved by green faction. What's not to like? No special abilities to be used, over to blue. Oh. Well. 3 points remaining in the thing. Blue. One thing that I have forgotten. 5th Syrian War causes king to go into the golden state of being great king. This means that the resources are not capped but at 2, but they can enter the spaces marked with 3 in different color. This can be of interest, because right now what is going to happen, I will try to benefit from this. Maybe this will work the way that I intend. I'm playing this card for the event at the very bottom, so blue resource goes up by 1, green resource goes up by 1. That's a shame. But also green skilled courtier receives a glory token. So let's say Hegesianax indeed will receive this. And blue faction goes up by 1, at least for now. Special abilities, no, not really, so over to red. This is a crisis. and it's one of the occurrences when the glory token pool is exhausted. With this, this spells the end of the game, so it doesn't have to finish with the exhausting all the event decks. It is in fact the final scoring time, and final scoring time is about adding the values of resources for the title holders. So for example, yellow player, because they control blue title that is worth 3, receive 1, 2, 3. Red office is held by the green. They receive 2 points because of this. And green office with green resource worth 3 is, this is red faction, so 3 points. Now, as you can see, in this game, in this particular playthrough, we end up with a tie, but the tiebreaker, in this case between blue faction, red and green, is in the number of the resolved crisis, and you will see quite quickly that the it would be tiebreaker would be won by green faction in this particular case. I do not know if the reviewers have seen other videos for 2-player game and 3-player game. I encourage you to do so because it gives a better understanding of similarities and differences between the between those 3 separate modes. In this particular case, I want to say that the 4-player game, even with the volatility and scores going up and down, I would like to think that it's relatively balanced, and the way the victory conditions go and the end game conditions, it's, even though mechanically game isn't very complex, it takes a while to decide, to see at a glance what is the best move to make. Right now, I can tell that the decision of the blue player to play this card, just because the next card was a crisis, there was no easy way to tell what were the chances of this happening. But this decision to play this card for the event certainly uh, set up the situation for the end game. All right, thank you for spending your time on this video. I hope that it was entertaining and at least interesting. May the rest of your day be merry. And once again, thank you for spending your time with me.